What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to A Certain Point of View. I am Jake Berlin. That is Brian Avolicino, and we are here to talk a bunch of Schmoedown for this week, heading into Atlanta, the live event for Atlanta this weekend. But before we get to our predictions and everything going on at the back end of the show, we are going to be talking a little bit about the Finstock exchange drama that's been happening. Everyone else has kind of touched on it over the last number of days and the way our schedule of the show works. We are a little bit behind on how it kind of all happened, but we're going to give our thoughts on everything that kind of went down because they have 3 players playing in Atlanta and they have 4 arguably of the greatest all times on their team, and it's kind of a big deal. And so, and plus there's no trades or anything that happened this week, and it's kind of a cool little replacement. And so we'll be covering that. And then we're going to be discussing the matches that happened this past week in the Cuckoo's Mess versus the Real Rejects and Riley versus Janine. Both matches we have reactions up to on the channel at the moment. Very fun reactions, probably 2 of our best, if not our best at the moment. They were pretty fun and good games.
We were cracking up through both of those.
Good games on both sides as well, and so we'll get to that as well. But let's go ahead and start with the Finstock exchange. How you doing today, Brian? You ready to talk some Schmoedown?
I am ready to schmo it out.
Schmo it out. You're ready to schmo it out.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so Finstock exchange. Obviously, look, if you pay attention to the world of Schmoedown, you know about everything that has kind of been going on with this faction and the drama that has been unfolding as far as Tom Dagnino making 2 different calls about who is managing who in Atlanta, and Merle, Roca, and Bateman all making statements at one point about the state of the faction and their point of view on everything, and how there's just a massive amount of miscommunication in this faction between these players specifically. I will also throw in that Brad and Frank on the rundown talked about it at length and made some really interesting things or interesting points on the show about trades and their point of view on everything. So if you have not listened to that, highly recommend listening to that because they had some really cool things to say. But Brian, from the outside, you know, because you and I haven't talked about this very much. What is, and I know we've touched on it a little bit about, we both think that they will be traded at some point. That Merle and Roca will more than likely will not be a part of the exchange by the end of the year. More than likely, if they lose the belts. I don't know if it's a win, but it's if they lose the belts. And so just thoughts, I mean, run down on what you're thinking on the Finstock exchange and how it's kind of all unfolding.
I am not surprised. I checked the tape, have gone back since day one and said that this faction will not.
Yeah, it's all egos.
Those
it's all alphas.
I would say 5, but obviously Dagnino's not moving. So those 4, I never even thought they would get halfway through the season. I, like you said, too many egos. Although I don't consider Merle really having an ego. He just kind of shows up.
Well, he and Roca kind of have their ego's almost one where Roca's like the very aggressive type, and then Merle's the much more subtle type. So they kind of like, it's like one big ego with the 2 of them.
So, I didn't think this faction would make it probably at least half the year. So this honestly does not surprise me. I'm a little surprised it's happening so quickly.
It's only a month into the season.
Yeah. And I think, well, I mean, we see the like the friendly joking jabs, like when what was it? Dagnino was saying like he was listing off, I forgot what it was from. He was listing off and he like reset, oh wait, excuse me, and then he put Roca.
Oh, he was listing off of on SCN when he was just listing off names, and then he backed up and put Roca at the top.
Yeah. So stuff like that, it's not healthy for a team. And I mean, it's funny to me because I feel like if you're not one of those like 5, everyone else is probably just kind of like, what's going on? Like, are we okay? Which doesn't help your team.
That, like, or it's just a bigger deal than that, or we're making it a bigger deal than it actually is.
It might be, but I mean, like, it kind of isn't, because those people either have or had belts at one point or another. So regardless, those are big deal people. It's different if it's new people. It's different if it's like a couple occasional players that fans like. Those are tried and true people that have held belts at some point, are either potentially holding belts at one point, and could win or lose belts at some point. So, I mean, the conflict was bound to come up eventually, because this Atlanta situation was probably going to come at some point where they would play against each other. I'm just surprised it's happening like this right now, this early.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's only about 6 studio matches into the season, 1 live event so far. It all stems from the miscommunication at the draft this past January, where Dagnino picked Roca 4th, and he came up and said, "This is how you corrupt a man," and it just kind of started a wildfire. And my thoughts on are this: you made a lot of the points that already don't need to be said again about it was kind of bound to happen at some point. The 4 main people that were picked first in this faction are all champions. 3 of them have a belt at the moment, and so when egos collide and you have a young star in Bateman who is Roca of old, or Riley of old, or even Merle right now, who has a long career ahead of him if he continues for a while. You can see why Dagnino's kind of in his corner a little bit, not taking him under his wing, but kind of just like partnering with him. And he chose Bateman to manage Merle in New York. And so it's clear that Bateman is the favorite, and Roca doesn't take kind to that, and nor should he. His character, the Outlaw will never take kind to something like that, and he's a champion. He crushes a lot of people in this game, and he has for a long time, and he has every right to be a little pissed off at the situation. But how it's been handled is very muddled and dramatic and just messy. And it's all just bad communication between Tom or Finstock and Merle and Roca, specifically Finstock and Merle, and then Finstock and Bateman, because those are the 3 that matter at the moment. Roca wouldn't even be on stage if he wasn't asked to be a manager, and he wasn't originally going to, because Tom's original decision wasn't to have Roca manage him, and then he flipped it about a day later after making a real decision. And so look, more than likely, this weekend is going to start a major wildfire. It's going to start a way bigger than it actually is. Way bigger than it is right now, I'll say. If it was a teams fight, and say it was who's the boss versus Founding Fathers, I would say after this weekend, one of the teams would be traded. Because unless Bateman still had the singles belt at that moment. But because Founding Fathers had the belt at the moment, I don't see Dagnino trading Bateman yet, even if he loses. You can't trade Merle and Roca, obviously, because if Merle wins, he'll have the singles belt and he'll have the teams belt, and they have the teams belt together. But when that time comes, and we saw, Harloff, Christian posted the throwdown next month about corruption versus the family for the #1 contenders match. That winning team will play the Founding Fathers for the title. Say the Founding Fathers lose to that team and lose the belts, they will be traded. I will say that they will be traded, even if Merle has the singles belt. And Roca has made it known that he will not go anywhere unless he trades Merle with him. So he will not agree to anything. He will not play for anybody unless he's tag teamed with Merle. And he has every right to say that. They're tag team, Matt. They're partners.
Yeah.
That's how it works. The issue is on the other side.
He's Eli Manning it.
Well, yes, but the issue is on the other side is, say Dagnino wants to make a trade. For any one of these players, you need to get a lot in return, and a lot of people don't have that kind of ability.
Yeah.
There's not that kind of ability. The only person that could really make something, and there might be one or two people, but the only real person that can make something if Dagnino's going to train the Founding Fathers is Roxy. You trade the odd couple, right? A fair team in return. Obviously, Shannon is never trading Mike, right?
Yeah.
Sam is never trading Drew.
No.
So that's not going to happen. Everybody else, they don't have a team that matches up to the Founding Fathers.
Yeah.
The odd couple is really the only team that is out there. The issue is that Roxy or Dagnino would never agree to an odd couple Founding Fathers switch. They would never agree to that. And Roxy would never agree to getting rid of them for that either. It would need to be a massive return on both sides. I would think that Roxy would probably have to give up Alex Damon as well. And that's it's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. But you're getting the Founding Fathers, right? Roca, singles and teams. Merle, team singles and Inner Geekdom already. Okay? You're giving up your Inner Geekdom player and Star Wars player in Alex Damon.
True.
Roxy could ask for a name like Alex de Malanta in return to replace that Star Wars void and make it a little bit more interesting. It's just hard to see Roxy giving up someone like the Odd Couple, but everybody else in the league, I don't see them being able to make a trade for that team.
I don't know. If you could always go for young. I'm looking at some young names. I mean, you'd have to find another pair, but in the sense of you could maybe steal Apollo Yama from Swag Squad. You'd have to find something else to go with it. You could maybe even somehow, it doesn't seem like it's that hard, but you could probably pry Ethan Irwin away from Robert Meyer Burnett.
But for Roca and Merle, you would need a massive return.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You need to have...
It would need to be a 3 for 2. Probably. No matter what.
Yeah, because, I love Robert Meyer Burnett, but his team, I'm like, who else am I going to get? We don't know how good James White is yet. Mm-hmm. Supposedly he's supposed to be awesome, but we don't know. And I think the problem really is, maybe you want one person. Well, if you don't want their teammate, the deal's done. Because a lot of these teams are already set up. So, I'm just going to throw as an example. Say, you wanted Video Drew. Well, you're probably going to get Rick Hong attached to it at this point. Not saying that I'm literally using that as an example. But, again, we don't know very much about a Rick Hong, a new person. And people aren't going to really want to... Kaiser's not going to throw away Smets. That's not going to happen. I don't see...
I could see the Den doing something.
Yeah, that's... I was kind of looking at that one a little bit.
Now that I'm looking at this...
I could see... I honestly... There's certain people you can see with other people. I could see Paul Preston being on Finstock.
I could see a Roca and Merle for a Tom, a Paul, and
Goddard.
I don't think Kate's giving up Goddard.
No,
I don't think Kate's giving up Goddard at all. He has the chance to be a Rookie of the Year candidate. Maybe a Brandon Hanna. Maybe a Brandon Hanna for Inner Geekdom. Someone's going to compete in Inner Geekdom because Finstock has Alex De La Monta right now. And so you don't need a name like Sean Sullivan, even though Sean Sullivan, and from what we know, is that he can make a big impact. And there's a possibility he might be on the show next week too. The other team is, and I don't see him getting rid of them, but you have Bibiani and Brendan Meyer sitting there.
There's no way he's giving up.
Look, I get it. No. Trust me, I understand. Look, I get it. And I said it from the beginning. I'm riding with the Quirky Mercs all year long. Okay, the Mouthy Works, previously known as the Mouthy Mercs, they're the team that I'm riding with all year long. Here's the only reason why I will say this.
Because you're going to tie Mara into it.
If you give up Mara, and you give Mara, you give you give Brendan Meyer and you give William Bibiani for Merle and Roca, and then maybe you throw in an inner geekdom like an Emily Rose Jacobson, or maybe a Star Wars player that maybe it's doable. Or you do Mara, Greg Alba, and John Humphrey, who just crushed it in teams, and you do a 3-for-2 for Roca and Merle, and then you have a 4-headed monster with Bibbs, Brendan, Merle, and Roca.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of stuff. We could do this all day.
Yeah. There's only a few teams in my mind that could really do it.
100%. I looking through it, there's some of these teams, like Robert Meyer Burnett, he would have to trade the whole dang team.
Robert Meyer Burnett doesn't really have anybody. Winston has a few names, but nobody that's going to be tradable for a Roca and a Merle. Corruption has the pieces, but there's no way you're trading Kalinowski.
No.
Obviously.
Or Chance.
Sam is not trading Drew, so that's out of the question. Kaiser's not trading Smets. To me, it's a 2-headed race, maybe a 3-headed race between Roxy, Kate, and Coy. But like we said, we don't see Coy trading Bibiani and Brendan.
And here's my thing: I don't see someone like Coy managing a Roca in Merle. I don't see.
We don't know how pairs would work, man. We don't.
The people that Coy has,
no, they fit him perfectly.
Are literally.
Trust me, they fit him perfectly. Here's the thing: if Bibbs and Brendan Meyer lose a team match, they would not only have lost a team match, they would have both lost a singles match, and say that the founding fathers still have the belts. Having the belts is a big deal. And if you can make a deal for a team that has the belts, which I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if you can trade a team that has the belts. I'm not sure if that's in the rules or
why
not.
not?
That'd be a massive blockbuster trade.
Yeah.
Massive blockbuster.
I don't know. It's just, we could go.
We can go all day. We really could. But we just wanted to give our thoughts on the exchange drama.
There's just certain spots you can see certain people, and there are definitely spots you just don't see them at. Mm-hmm. So who knows? We could be debating them two right now, and it might be another two. It might be.
It could be Ben Bateman and Mark Riley next week. Exactly. Because what if Bateman loses the belt?
Exactly.
And we're having this conversation all over again.
Yeah, we're having this conversation, and literally nothing would just
that makes a lot more sense in my mind to trade Bateman, because the second Bateman came into the faction is when all the drama started, and plus you could probably get a good amount in return without giving a whole lot up.
Yeah.
For Bateman.
I just don't see Finstock wanting to trade him.
Well, I see Finstock going definitely on more Bateman side than a Roca side.
Yeah, me too.
I think Roca just kind of wants out.
I think so too.
All right, well, let's move on from this. We may touch on it next week because this week in Atlanta is going to bring a whole lot of craziness. And so we're going to get to our match breakdowns from this past week. And as I mentioned up top, we have the Cuckoo's Mess versus the Real Rejects and Mark Riley versus Janine the Machine. We're going to get to the teens match first. We went on opposite sides on this one.
We did.
You had picked Cuckoo's Mess with Video Drew and Rick Hong, and I went with the Real Rejects for Greg Alba and John Humphrey. A lot of that was due to the fact that, like I mentioned, I'm riding with the Quirky Mercs all year, and I thought that this was a great opportunity for them to start off on a strong note in the studio matches. A great match. Rick Hong's first match, and I think he proved his way through this match, and a first showing with a Video Drew without a Tom in her corner. I really enjoyed the match. I think it was one of the best all year, and obviously the Real Rejects coming out on top with, I think they might have tied the points record, correct?
Real Rejects?
I think so, didn't it?
No, it was only, I thought it was way higher than that.
I might be wrong. It might be another team I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm thinking it wasn't. It
was Deep 13 that tied from the week before. You're correct. Correct. Yes.
The final point score for this one was close. It was 23-24. But I believe
I don't think Real Rejects answered a question in the next round. They TKO'd them.
Yeah,
which is where their 2 points came from.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, yes, this final score was close, but they didn't get their questions. But yeah, listen. Rick Hong's new. He's not Tom. Tom is
Well, he is Tom.
He is Tom, but he's not the Tom.
He's a little bit of a nuttier Tom.
Yeah, Tom is a machine at this point. Although he did struggle a little bit in his recent one, probably more than he's ever done. But I was most impressed. Well, other than I'm talking about that team that I picked. Real Rejects really impressed me.
And they had been on a big hiatus too. They hadn't been seen in a while.
Yeah, and their previous record was not.
They were
good.
1-5.
Yeah, 1-5.
Not 2-5.
Yeah, but I was actually very impressed by Video Drew. I think she studied up because, like, to me, when she was with Tom and the Looney Bin, it almost kind of seemed a little bit like Tom takes the lead and then, like, hopefully Video Drew answers some points. It's not the case of that anymore. Like, she knows it. And I think she definitely showed it in this one against Real Rejects because she was answering a lot of the questions correctly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I mean, she was great with Tom too, but you could tell, at least to me, a difference that it was like quality. Like she was nailing her points this time. And Rick Hong, I mean, first one, for all we know,
he had a couple really good pulls.
Yeah, and you never know. It could just be first time jitters too, if that's the case. And if that's the case, then that's even scarier because if they come back and play some other matches, then who knows? But I was really impressed by Real Rejects. Really impressed. I looked too much into the past record. I saw the 1-5 and I was like, this is one of the like fun joke teams. Not the case. They were like literally like throat punching like these answers. Like it was no one's business. And it almost kind of gave me like we need to watch out for them because
I think they landed on the perfect team too with Koi.
Yeah. I mean,
they don't have to be the superstars. They can play behind. Obviously they can play behind Bibiani and the kid. So it helps them in the corner.
I mean, they knocked out 24 without answering a question and they could have walked out of that with 34 points. They just didn't even get a chance. So if that's the case, they might be a scary team. And if that's the case with teams, Koi's looking pretty good to have those two types of teams that he has.
Yeah, we talked about on the reaction how surprising it was that this happened, and the fact that if this does continue to happen, Koi has 4 really good competitors who can compete very strongly in the team's realm. Yeah, I mean, I expected the Real Rejects to win. I just had this hunch for them. I really did. I think a lot of it had to do with them landing on this team specifically and Koi choosing them for the Quirky Works.
Yeah.
It made sense in my mind because they are quirky themselves and
they don't have
laughing. Yeah, and they don't have the pressure to perform at the highest level because they have someone like Bibiani and the kid above them.
Yeah.
Obviously the turning point for the match was the second round. They made it close, but having Cuckoo's Mess land on opponent's choice and then giving back Denzel Washington, which they spun away from, is always a little bit of a bad situation. We've only seen it be a positive once or twice in the past. It put them in a little bit of a hole. They weren't able to come back in the third round. They had a couple good pulls, but they just couldn't quite get there. It really is a luck of the draw for the Real Rejects. They had questions that went their way and Cuckoo's Mess didn't. You had mentioned Video Drew definitely performed, and we had seen it from her before, but because Tom was so good when they were together, she didn't really shine as much as she did in this match. And I think that she has a bright future, obviously. She's a huge personality. I still question them together.
So do I.
I don't know if it mixes as well as the previous did.
I don't think it comes anywhere close.
No. But we also have to keep in mind that it was their first match. It was Rick Hong's first match, and it could very much play out a little bit differently next time if or when we do see them. because we also have to keep in mind that when teams or people or competitors lose, we might not see them for a while. And so who knows when we'll see the Cuckoo's Mess next. But definitely a good showing. Real Rejects definitely surprised me. And Coy has some juggernaut teams on his hands. So it's going to be fun.
Juggernaut teams. He's got juggernaut.
His
team is a juggernaut.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on to the singles match. The highlight of the week, the big one, the one that everyone was expecting to be kind of like a showdown. We have Mark Yodi Riley, the veteran, versus the young gun of Janine the Machine, someone who has been touted to kind of take over this league and step into this role of like singles greatness. It was not the high impact match that we expected it to be. Mm-hmm. I think it was like 5-6 or something after the first round. Very low scoring. Both struggled a little bit, but Janine showed a little bit more presence in the first round. But unfortunately, Mark Riley hit that hole in the second round, and it just fell all downhill from Janine from there. Again, just a luck of the draw for her or for him, and everything went right for him past that first round, and it kind of just backed Janine in the corner. But she did show the player that we expect her to be. And I think having Sam in her corner helps as well because it's nothing against Jay Washington, but Sam's a much more of a different kind of manager, and he has that experience inside the high-flying moments in the Schmoedown, and you could tell that it's kind of putting her a little bit more at ease.
Yeah. I mean, we both picked Janine to take this, so it was definitely, I think, a surprise to us. The wheel is killing people this year.
We've already had 3. I want to say we've had 3 opponent's choice spins already. Yeah, it's either 2 or 3.
The wheel is absolutely the make or break round this season. Like I think almost I would say like at least half these matches. It's like you falter in the wheel, you're done. You're climbing a steep hill, and because I mean. When you get to the last questions, like that's just pure luck. You just literally pick a number. I mean, I guess the wheel is too, but I mean, with the wheel, if you're taking your second spin, like you got to choose kind of your first one if you liked it or not. But when it's kiss of death when you spin away from something and get opponent's choice. It's literally like that's a kiss of death. You just told them that's not a good category for me. And blah, blah, blah. And then when something like that happens, or the other person lands on their strong point, like Riley did, you are climbing up a hill. And, I think she definitely kicked herself in the butt for sticking with DiCaprio. Because, I mean, I think she thought she could handle it. But she knew like she would know some of it, and she even said she took shots thinking like no multiple choice. Multiple choice would have helped her. It would have drawn things out more. But the wheel is literally just wrecking people.
It's at a point where if you don't spin something that you like that first time, you have to question whether or not you want to take it or not, because more than likely you're not going to spin something you like the second time because of how the slices are playing out. It's much more strategic than it ever has been as far as where slices are placed, how they're picked by competitors. And so far from what we've seen this season, and this can obviously change, every competitor is so different from each other. If you don't land on something that's your strength, you're screwed in the rest of them. Like, period. That's just how it is. If you don't land on a strength or a spinner's choice, you're going at it with luck.
Yeah.
And however much you have, that is. And so it was definitely the moment in the match when Riley spun that horse. Like, okay, this could end up being really bad. But Janine did fight back. She got to that third question in the third round.
Yeah.
Just couldn't pull that 5-pointer. She asked for as many repeats as she possibly could. And it just couldn't happen for her. She had the question of who voices Miles' father in Into the Spider-Verse. And, I mean, that's a question I wouldn't have. I know I think she may have even had it because she kept saying the guy from Atlanta.
She knew
it was Brian Tyree Henry, I think, right?
Yeah.
And so it just didn't go her way that day. It really didn't.
Yeah, it's this one's it's killer this year as far as like it almost seems like you trip once and like you are fighting to get up a hill, and it seems like you can't make mistakes this year.
Well, I mean, there's at most 10 people on each team. There's only 2 matches a week.
Yeah,
and I mean, most of the time, if there's a live event, there may be 1 match a week, maybe 2. You know, we might get that lucky chance. We have the tournaments, obviously, but for most of these people, I mean, there's a chance we may not even see people this year, which is a huge deal.
Which is wild. I mean, like, to me, like, not seeing Janine is, like, not even comprehensive. Yeah, like I'm like, no, like, she should be in a match, like, in a few weeks.
And
like,
she talked about it, how, you know, people have been talking about her about being this all-powerful player and how she's supposed to take over the league and everything, and maybe that had a little bit to do with her nerves because she's supposed to show up under the lights. And
she looked a little nervous.
Yeah, I think once that second, or once the end of the first round came around, she was struggling a little bit. You could tell it was kind of getting to her a little bit. But there's no doubt in my mind that she's going to come back up and play as well as she has in the past and be there at the end. I think we'll see her at the free-for-all really show up, and, you know, because it's under the lights, yes, but you're up there with 4 other competitors and you're just being asked questions, plain and simple. There's no wheel spin. There's no picking numbers. It's just Iron Man type of style where you're just being asked questions and you answer them. And so I think that's where she can end up pulling off like a kid style of run this year in the free for all. If she does in fact play. I mean, there's 40 competitors and that's 4 teams worth of people. And so who knows who's going to be in this live event, but definitely a little bit of a shocking end, but I think it definitely proved that Riley isn't done with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know if he'll ever compete for a belt again. In the singles, I think he's better off in teams with a Bateman.
I agree.
Because his focus can shift a little bit better. But I do think that it was definitely a good win for him, and obviously for the Finstock Exchange too.
Yeah,
so.
No, I agree there too. I don't think this is the last we'll see of Janine.
Yeah.
People like her too much to not be in more.
Well, that's what Sam said. It's like fans ask for her to play, tell Harloff, bombard Harloff, and maybe we'll get her. So it's just cutthroat. It really is cutthroat, but it's making the league much more fun and interesting and wild. And I mean, we're a month in, and look how much stuff we've had to talk about so far.
Yeah, it's just hard for me to think that someone like Janine, who is so high up in like a draft pick, like 3rd round,
we'll see her. We'll see her in teams too, and she'll be there. But it is. I mean, it's not a bummer because Riley started off on a strong note, but it is a little bit of a shocking note that she didn't come out as strong as we expected her to.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
All right. Well, before we get to our breakdown of the points and everything, let's go ahead and get to the Atlanta match. We have about 10 to 15 minutes left. Let's just preview both matches real quick. We're going to start with the undercard, and that is Alex Damon versus Emily Rose Jacobson. Rockstars versus the Finstock Exchange. Roxy versus Dagnino. This one's big. We've seen Emily Rose Jacobson before. She's proven herself in the Intergeekdom before, and she's just had that much more time to study inside the world. This is Alex Damon's first go at the division, right? Obviously, just destructive in the Star Wars division, dominating that so far as how many matches he's won and how he's won them, and just the people that he has beaten through his run. I know he's still waiting for Whitwer, but at the moment he's showing why he's a true champion. But this could be a fun match because we're gonna see what Damon really has as a Schmoedown competitor, because It's not Star Wars. He has to actually study for this type of stuff. It's not just his daily job. I will say this. I'm at the moment, while we're shooting this, I'm still undecided. I really am.
Okay.
I go back and forth on it. By the time Atlanta does come out, I will have a decision made. But at the moment, I'm undecided because I do think that Emily Rose Jacobson does have a good chance because she has Adam Lavick in her corner, which is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Alex and Molly Damon, they had to find a whole new way to study because it's a whole new world for them.
Yeah.
And so that could stumble a little bit, but we've seen what Damon could do in live events too. He's a very relaxed, kind of just cool guy.
He's a Jedi.
I mean, truthfully, he is.
Mm.
And so that could play in his favor, but I do think that he'll stumble. But I will say that I'm staying in the middle at the moment.
Okay.
I know where you're lying.
Yeah, I'm never gonna not pick against Alex Damon. He's like my favorite player. But she scares me.
She could be really good, man.
I remember watching a couple of her matches and going, she's good.
And she's just had this much more time to study.
Yeah, and she's 1-1, so I mean that leaves her neutral. When I saw her name get attached to this, I was like, crap.
And let's be honest, Harloff wouldn't put her in a live event if he didn't believe that there can actually be a good match.
Exactly. And like, I'll be completely honest. Like, I was like, yeah, Damon's competing in Intergeekdom. Then when I saw who was playing, I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, she's good. Like, she is very good. Her being a 7th round pick.
Steal.
She's higher than that. She's a scary opponent.
She's gonna be fun to watch. She's gonna be, and because she's so like vibrant and just embraces it, and she comes out in the costumes and all that type of stuff, and so it's gonna be fun for the live event. You can tell that she's just cool, calm, collected. She's in her element, doesn't bother her, and so that could get under someone's skin like a Damon because he's never faced that before. He's faced people who are, in the Star Wars division, outside of a few, I mean, they're all very friendly with each other because it's a very small world, right? A lot of them are Star Wars podcasters, so they know each other. Like the Spectacular, Laura and Alex, they came out in each other's shirts. And it's a very cordial league. Intergeekdom's different, man. It's cutthroat
it really
type
is.
of league. And this could be where we see a little bit of his armor, a little bit, right? A little bit of a chink. I'm not going to be shocked if he wins because I think he can apply his, if he does have study techniques to the Intergeekdom world. And obviously having Roxy as a manager is a huge plus. She's so involved and she just wants everything to go well for all of her competitors.
Yeah.
But you also have to think on the flip side with Emily Rose Jacobson, if she gets someone study techniques like a Bateman,
yeah, I mean, she scared me before she was on Finstock Exchange, knowing that she has Ben Bateman, Mark Riley, Dan Merle, John Roca, Adam DiMolanta, all those people in her corner, plus being coached by Finstock, that's scary. Like I imagine this being close. I have a feeling it's going to be a close final. The thing that scares me with Damon is I get he's comfortable in a live match, but that's doing something he knows a lot about.
And let's also go to this too. A lot of his matches, he doesn't have to answer those final questions. There's a lot of times where he doesn't answer the 5-point questions because the other person is trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Right? And those 5-point questions for Star Wars are ridiculous. They're flat out ridiculous.
Yeah.
A 5-point question in Intergeekdom, that could be a big stumbling point.
Yeah.
Because that is something so minute in a story, in a movie, out of all of these movies, that could really affect him. And so if he falls behind, first of all, that's going to be a shock because we're going to see Alex Damon playing behind, which is just a big deal. But having the experience of playing in the league already with her and, getting to those questions, that plays in her favor. And so I'm just looking for a really good match because I know that if he loses, he's going to pick himself back up. Like he's going to be there at the end. I wouldn't be surprised if he competes for a title at the end of the year. I really wouldn't. Yeah. And I know Harloff was considering doing a Intergeekdom tournament again, which he'll obviously be in. There's no doubt he'll be in it. Yeah. But I think there's a chance that he could, we could see a little chink this weekend. Yeah.
He has always struck me as a person that if he doesn't if he knows that he's not the best, he's going to make sure he's the best. And that's how it is with Star Wars. It's I know I can be the best, so I'm going to make sure I'm the best. Yeah, and that's a scary mentality.
And his job is podcasting for Star Wars Explained, and so all the time he's not doing that, he's been studying.
Yeah.
And he
literally puts it on Twitter. Like,
he's been studying since the day he accepted the fact that he's doing Inner Geekdom.
Yeah.
And it's been for at least 2 months now.
Yeah.
And so he has all those movies he can watch. You know, all that time. You know, he just flew out for the Project Lumina stuff. He has that plane ride to study. Molly is 100% in his corner.
She should be competing too.
She'll do Star Wars. She'll do Star Wars.
I think she should do other stuff because she's doing all this same stuff with him.
I think she'll do Star Wars more than anything. She competed in the past.
I know, but I'm just saying I would love to see her on another team.
Yeah.
Competing against.
Well, it's like Dan and Mara.
Yeah,
like
that type of situation.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. But yeah. This is going to be very interesting, and for his debut to be a live show
at the hometown too.
Yeah, and see that's another reason why that's where I was going to go is have we been to Atlanta before?
No.
Okay, you're not going to come into his house and lose in a place that's never hosted it, sold out, and you wanted your debut to be at home. You
don't be surprised. Don't be surprised.
I'm not. But I
might just pick her just for the devil advocate's sake of it all.
You probably will just.
Yeah, more than likely.
No, she's. I know I'm hyping up him, but she is a scary. Competitor.
It's gonna be fun. All right, but let's get to the big one here. The big title match, the one that could change the face of the Schmoedown for 2020 of season 7. We have Dan Murrell versus Ben Bateman. You know, we have dangerous Dan Murrell versus Ben the Boss Bateman. Finstock Exchange versus Finstock Exchange. You know, we talked about the drama beforehand with the managing aspect of it, but now leaving that out of it and going mano a mano for knowledge. Before we get to the conversation, man, who are you picking for the win?
I always answer first. I want to know who you're picking.
I just answered first.
You said your answer was I don't know who I'm picking.
I answered first. I answered first.
I think I'm going to pick Bateman.
Are you?
Yeah. Although something in the back of my head says,
which one, Brian?
It's just I'm going to pick Bateman, but I got this little thing in the back of my head saying because Morrell's going to come out and I don't know. I'm going to pick Bateman, but I'm not going to be surprised if Morrell takes it.
So in this entire lead up, you know, I think I may have even said it on our first show. I thought Ben Bateman could run the table. I really could. I thought he can go all year long without losing. He's just that good. And he's changed the face of how you approach a Schmoedown as far as studying and strategy and all that. But because of the drama been going on the last 2 weeks, Dan Murrell is going to come out with the biggest chip on his shoulder, with a fire lit under his ass that has been bigger than ever before. And I would not be surprised if he beats Bateman by at least 5 points. And Bateman doesn't answer one of his final questions. And it's not an easy victory, but I'm not surprised that he did this. I am going to go with Murrell. I've been picking Bateman this entire year. I said it. I thought he could run the table.
Yeah, you're a flip-flopper.
Look, I disliked Bateman when he was on the Action Army or the Team Action, and then he became on Finstock Exchange. I really started to enjoy his presence and kind of how he's approaching the game. But because of all this stuff going on with Dagnino and Bateman and kind of everything going on, and how big of a fan I've been of Rocco for so long, I'm back in the Founding Fathers in this one. I think Murrell's going to come out. He's going to stay undefeated in live events. He's going to win his fourth title, and he's going to, even though he already is, he's going to solidify himself as the greatest of all time, and nobody can ever touch him. Period.
I kind of already figured he was pretty much at the
That's what I'm saying. He already is. But this is going to be a solidification that don't ever doubt me again.
Yeah.
Don't ever doubt me again.
I'm not going to be surprised if he takes the belt. It's going to come down to the wheel.
Yeah. It always is. For sure.
It's going to majorly come down to the wheel. And I could see almost probably a perfect round almost for the first round for both of them.
It's going to be a complete showdown.
It's going to come down to how many questions were you able to answer during the wheel round and who's playing catch up.
So my what I think this match hinges on is the managers. I do think that Dagnino made a mistake in allowing Roca to manage Dan Murrell.
100%.
That is, it's a big mistake because you have a player.
It's like a team
who's been playing for years now, and then you have Dagnino, who's just a manager, is the only person they can essentially talk to throughout the match.
Yeah.
And we know how Bateman gets with challenges, and we know how Dagnino gets with challenges. We saw in New York what Murrell did once those challenges came to be.
Oh, yeah.
His whole mentality changed. And he was pissed off, and there was no losing. There was no losing. Hopefully they learned from that. Because if they do that in Atlanta, and how Dan Murrell has performed in live events in the past, wow, they should be scared.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
He's dangerous.
It's gonna be something close too. It's gonna be like a 26-24.
Yeah, I hope we see the best match of all time. It
could be.
It really
paper,
is.
It looks like
it's starting to feel like it's going to be the greatest match of all time.
Yeah,
and it has a long way to go to be that. You know, Roca versus Murrell is a great match, and we've had great stuff in the past. But this really does, the way that the game is, you have old school versus new school, right? They're so strategic and so study habit, and like they have all these people in their corner. It really does feel like it could be the greatest Schmoedown match that we will ever see.
Yeah.
Like, period.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Like, I'm so excited.
I wouldn't be surprised if it went to overtime.
No, not at all.
Not at all. So, I don't know. It's funny because, like, I'm picking Bateman, but I'm like, you should pick Murrell. You should pick Murrell. I'm like, so we'll see.
Yeah, so we're going on opposite sides. I got Murrell, you got Bateman, which will make it fun for a fun weekend. But let's go ahead and move on to our weekly breakdown of the points and how they shook up. Definitely a shake up here because of the TKO with the Real Rejects.
Yep.
And obviously the win by Riley for the Finstock exchange. But Brian, how do they shape up? Who is on top this week?
Well, you want to give your little shout out first?
Oh yeah, T-Squared, Tobias and Tobias. Thank you guys for the image. We're using it. I will put it up on the screen for our viewers to see.
Looking at it.
Very, very cool stuff. Can't thank you guys enough for putting it up. You guys tag me every Sunday or Monday, even though I see it before you guys tag me because I get the group notification. But thank you guys so much for making the image.
So we have in sole possession of first place with 5 points is the Finstock exchange, which is scary. Because
they have 3 players playing this weekend.
They have 3 players this weekend.
And the title match, each of them will walk away with the point no matter what, because it is a title match. So they already at the moment have 2 points.
Yeah, that's and then in sole possession of second place, we have the Den at 4 points. They're 2-1.
They didn't have a match this week, right? That was because of last week. And they've had 3 matches in the past 3 weeks or whatever it is,
in sole possession of third place, we have the I cannot say that word. Corky Mercs. Who is 1-2, and they have 3 points. A tie for fourth place between the Burning Droogs and the Usual Suspects with 2 points, both 1-1. And we have a 3-way tie for sixth place, all because they have lost a match, so they've had their match, but have 0 points, is Corruption, Swag, and the Dungeon. And in no place
Roxy, they haven't played yet.
Rockstars, because they have not done
and they have their first match this weekend.
Which they do. They have Damon's first match, and hopefully that gets them some points, because if not, it just goes more points to Finstock exchange.
Yeah, it's going to be... look, I will say this. We've been hyping up the Finstock exchange from the beginning. Obviously, they deserve it. I do think that after this weekend is probably going to be the downfall of the faction.
Oh, me too.
I think that they're not going to finish the top of the year like we expected them to because of all the drama. We should have expected it going in, but I think that this weekend
should have. I did.
I think this is the last time we will. I think this will be the final time we really see them atop the standings. Even though they have some good players, I do think that. And if Bateman keeps the title, it's a different story. But if things do start to shake up for this faction, they could be flipped on their head a little bit going into the next couple weeks. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, definitely not surprised.
Be huge.
Definitely not surprised. Brian, before we get out of here, I don't think we've talked about this yet. I know we've said it off camera, but what team are you riding with this year? Because I do want to. I want to make sure that we are almost in a way competing with one another about who we are going with. And I said it. I'm riding with the Quirky Mercs. I had a decision between obviously the Finstock Exchange is going to be a favorite just because of Roka, but I was deciding between the Den and the Quirky Mercs, and I decided to go with Koi and the Quirky Mercs, and I felt like they could be a team. And plus, Shazam is my favorite team, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Well, I mean, that was probably who I was looking at picking as well, but I'm trying to find my team. I'm still like, I still am not 100% sure who I'm really riding with. I want to ride with Roxy. Her team entices me probably the most.
Oh man, I might. Oh, I've always liked Roxy.
Yeah,
Always liked.
Her team is the one that kind of like I look at and I'm like, that's interesting. Like
the only reason why I would consider flipping to Roxy is because I think Roxy is the sole manager out of the entire league that will end up making a blockbuster trade.
Oh yeah,
I think that she's the one to kind of flip it on its head because she's so good at what she does.
I don't think there's anyone that compares to her level as a manager. I don't even know, to be honest, if there ever will be someone that can compare to her as a manager, and that's what draws me to her team. I feel like she's the one that could like, I mean, like, have a turd of a player and polish it into gold. Like that. That's the type.
Well, she turned Snyder around.
Yeah, like that's the type of caliber I think she has. Honestly, other than Quirky Mercs, it would definitely be between probably Roxy and the Den. Although I'm not sleeping on the dungeon either.
Come on, I gotta pick one.
I don't know.
Gotta pick one right now. 3, 2,
you know,
1.
I mean, looking at these records, I probably would pick Roxy.
All right. So Brian's going with the rock stars. I got the Quirky Mercs. Riding with the season. We're sticking on it no matter what. The entire season. There's no flipping from here on out. We're sticking with them. That's who we're going with for 2020.
I like how I picked the team that hasn't even played yet.
Yeah. I mean, they have your favorite player, though, which makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, and Shazam is my favorite team, so I like Bibiani and a kid, and that's kind of why I went with the Mercs.
God, but the Den is so strong.
Yeah, I really do like. They have a lot of young talent. The
Den is so freaking strong.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, there it is. A certain point of view, number 4, heading into Atlanta this weekend. Lots of fun things to talk about, and we will be back next week to discuss not just Atlanta, but the matches that happened this week as well. And like I mentioned, there is a possibility that we do have a competitor joining us next week for a phone call. Possibly Skype as well if we can figure out the system because we are still learning. So very excited for that. But for now, this is a certain point of view. Thank you guys for joining us as always. Make sure you guys find us on Anchor, Apple, Spotify on audio. The show is on there every week. You can find us on Twitter. We're posting all of our reactions and our show as well as kind of keeping up with the Schmoedown stuff on that. And then, of course, our personal pages as well. So that's Brian Avolicino. I am Jake Berlin. We are A Certain Point of View. Thank you guys for joining us. We look forward to Atlanta, and hopefully you guys do too. We'll see you guys next week.